and welcome to another episode of A Walk with Mel. People, it's another beautiful day and it's exciting when we have new talent on the show. And I'm especially excited because I've been working with you, Bryce Donson, all the way from Cape Town, a filmmaker. For the people that don't know, let's do a bit of an introduction of who you are and where you're from.
I'm Bryce. I'm from Cape Town, born and raised. Yeah, and I'm a director and screenwriter.
Amazing. So obviously you were a director and screenwriter, but you studied medicine first, which is interesting.
Yes.
Let's just take us through that journey. How did that happen?
Yeah, so that's a question I get all the time because they always ask, "Oh, what did you? What? You surely you studied something before you studied film and started making film." So yeah, that's an interesting story. So I was when I was in high school, I got very good marks, and because I have POC parents, there's sort of a unspoken rule that you either become a doctor, a lawyer, or a disappointment. So I decided to go with doctor. I suppose I like Grey's Anatomy and House, so I picked that sort of randomly. And yeah, then when I went there, I kind of realized that this definitely isn't for me.
Sure.
And then also it's this very long degree, so it's. Like, part of me was thinking, I always had the secret dream in me that I wanted to be a filmmaker because I love films. Like, part of the way our family would bond is we would all sit down and watch a movie. So I always found the process fascinating and I loved that. And I was a film nerd. But that seemed like something that was unachievable. So I decided to do something more practical, I suppose. But I very quickly realized that wasn't for me. Like, at med school, the people I was around wasn't my people.
I know what you mean.
They were all very focused and very passionate about medicine, and to me, I was very passionate about the films that were coming out and like listening to Scorsese talk or Quentin Tarantino and stuff like that. And then also I felt bad because if I'm gonna be like a doctor's a big responsibility,
right?
And I was too jokey and funny and like living the clouds to really do that. So I kind of in I think it was third year, I dropped out without telling anybody, which was a bad idea. And in retrospect, it was a young dumb thing. And then eventually my parents found out that obviously, okay, this guy's not doing medicine. And then there was another chapter of my life, which was brief, where I kind of didn't know what I was gonna do. Like everyone around me.
So you didn't sort of go into filmmaking?
No.
Okay.
Everyone was telling me that, you have so much potential, and I was stuck. I was very sad and depressed, and I didn't know what to do. So I kind of worked a lot of odd jobs. I worked at like a call center. For some reason I was decent at that job, but I hated it because you would just sit there with those things on and talk to people the whole time.
And you were creative, man.
Yeah, exactly. So it crushed me. I have some funny stories from it, from talking to random people, but it was awful. And then eventually one day, because everyone in my life could see that this is making him deeply unhappy as well. And one day my brother said, Bryce, we all know that you want to be a filmmaker, so why don't you just study film?
Heavy.
And then that was kind of the push that I needed to be like
to go into
to actually, and unbeknownst to them, I'd already like looked up how much it would cost to study film and actor and stuff like that, and I'd saved up enough money to kind of put that that initial deposit down, and then I spoke to my parents and was like, okay,
you took it, like you took responsibility for it,
and then they were like, okay, yes. Which was also one of the best things that they've ever done for me. And then I started.
When you started after the first week or month, did you feel like, nah, this is a good choice?
No, there was big parts of me that was still concerned, because again, now I'm taking this massive leap, and I'm not sure if it's gonna work out. Also, I was a lot older than the rest of the people there, and they were sort of still in their sort of discovery phase, and I'd already gone through that in med school. So I just wanted to work. I just wanted to sit down and let's make movies.
Yes.
But then slowly, as I got to know the people there and we worked together, I realized that a lot of these people are like me, and that was the first sort of place where I felt truly like understood and like I fit, and then that kind of just created. Then I knew, okay, I'm where I'm supposed to be.
Amazing. Let's talk about your first film. What was it about, and what was the process?
Yeah.
Anything first time is.
Yeah. No. The first film I directed was it was bad. So So essentially, after in your first year, you make like 4 5-minute films, and then you do different disciplines for all of it. So I did acting for like a semester just to try and like understand actors and to play a little bit. So with those ones, I was kind of someone else was directing me.
Amazing.
And then I could kind of make notes of what to do and what actors like and what actors don't like. Like, I hated when they call me by my character name the whole time. Like, I'm a person. So I made a note of, okay, don't do that. But the first movie I directed was this 5-minute short. And it had to be a horror. So we sort of made this horror very avant-garde. Like, I'm a weird person. And you kind of see that in the stuff that I make as well. But it was about this character who, and also now that I think about it, it was a lot about like what I went through just before I started, like film school. But it was about this this character who really wants to become this artist, but he's just not been able to do well with his art. So then he feels his art calling to him, and his art is this sort of embodied by this creepy character that's calling to him the whole time. And then he's trying to escape it, and eventually it catches him, and then it ends with him looking super deranged, just painting this beautiful painting. So it was kind of about the artist's struggle with the artwork and what it actually means to be successful in this field. But it wasn't great. I'm not gonna lie.
Very happy. But don't you think you're just hard on yourself?
I think yes, to some extent. I think there were positives about it, but when you look back at the other stuff you've made, you can see how you've grown.
After you've grown,
like I think for one, I didn't fully grasp how to talk to every department. I didn't know how to sit down. Yeah, I didn't know how to sit down and read the script and plan out the shots and then see how that's going to translate into the edit itself. So then we shot the movie and then we sat in the edit and then I realized, oh, that's a mistake that I can't make again. And on set, I should have fixed that already, and that's a mistake. And one thing was like I wanted to get good at it very quickly. That's just my personality. So I needed to learn from every mistake. Like I'm very hard on myself, so I hated that movie, but I learned that
much.
I can't do this again. I can't.
And that's why you're there.
Yes.
So you guys made 10 films there, right?
In total,
In total, well, you've made like 30 now already.
Yes.
Besides that, so which ones would you say is your favorites and why?
That's
difficult.
It's like choosing your favorite child.
I know.
But, I'm sure on certain days my dad has his favorite child. But so yeah, I think after I made that bad movie, or the one I didn't like, we made another movie in first year, which was again I was very ambitious in my first year. I think because I felt like I had something to prove.
Yes.
So then we made this sort of sci-fi movie where we built a whole set of like a spaceship and we kind of inspired by Star Wars and Aliens. So I like that one. That was called Tula, and it was just this very close thing about like morals on a spaceship and a comment on the government. Again, very ambitious. But yeah, I like that one. Then we made a comedy called Tearjerker after that, which I also enjoyed. It was kind of like that was a very like, I don't know if anyone's watched Wes Anderson, they would see that this is very much just a Wes Anderson movie. So a lot of my early stuff was me just copying people and just seeing what works for me.
Yes.
But then fourth term in our first year, that's a movie that then felt like, this is my own thing. And I think you watched that movie and then that's when you wanted to work with me. And that movie was called Wings, and it was this fantasy movie that we made, and it was very much about being a person of color and having to conform to this world that wasn't necessarily built for you. And then I think that's kind of where I found my niche of I'm writing this and this feels honest for the first time. And it was fantastical, and it was about this lady with wings fighting in this ring and being forced, and them cutting off their wings, or cutting off her wings at the end. But that really felt like I was telling the truth. And when we worked with the actors as well, they could relate. And when I worked with the DOP and with the editors, it felt cohesive. Everyone was adding their own thing.
Beautiful.
And again, it was very ambitious, and we shot very late, and people were stressed. But the finished product, I was very proud of. So that's one I'm very proud of.
Amazing.
And then in I must correct myself. Those were in second year. Yeah, not in first year. Sorry. First year movies, I only directed one, which was the bad one. Yeah. Then in third year, we only make two because you have a longer period. So then I made this experimental film called The Joke, which was extremely stressful to make. And that was because it was so many. Again, I'm super ambitious, but I've kind of learned to rein that in a bit more now. That's another thing that I learned. It's like what's achievable.
Not a bad thing.
Yeah, it's like what's achievable with what you have. But it was this. It was again a very weird dream sequency like film about this comedian who's grappling with being successful with their art or like being happy in life, and
Sure.
that was something that at the time I was struggling with as well. That sort of balance, because I tend to overwork myself as well. Again, because I feel like I have something to prove. So with that movie, I kind of explored that, and then for me as well, I think I took some nuggets out of it as well, because we left it quite.
Imitates life.
Yes, exactly. It was very much that, and then the film I'm very proud of was our graduation film called Organic, which again kind of stemmed. It was very similar to Wings, that movie I made, where I spoke about like people of color kind of being appropriated in South Africa or just in the world, and we spoke on that in a very harrowing sort of dark horror like sense, very akin to Get Out. We use a lot from like Jordan Peele's films, and that was also a very hectic one to make, but it was one of those ones where it was so grueling, the shoot was so hectic. And like after we'd wrapped, I kind of just was like, I just need a nap. And then like, this movie is whatever, like I'm just gonna nap, and maybe this isn't for me. And then when we sat and we started cutting it, it all just came together, and then it made this beautiful thing.
That is wonderful.
And then that kind of affirmed, I've grown so much from that.
And it's important to look back. It's important to look back on the journey. People, it is a walk with Mal. We're hanging out with Bryce, talking films and storytelling. We'll be back right after the break.
Like you lost another one.
And we are back, people. It is a walk with Mal, hanging out with Bryce, talking storytelling, talking filmmaking, and it's so cool. I love speaking to passionate people. I just told you about this now before the break, that you can see when someone's passionate about it, man. It's so cool to see that you're on the journey, on your purpose, because I know what it's like when you're in a job. But the same thing happened to me when I was working. You could see the other people around you, they're passionate about the corporate job. And I'm taking up space, man. So I need to...
It seems like a waste.
It feels like a waste. Tell me, what kind of guy were you growing up? Random question.
Me?
Are you a nerd or cool?
I was not cool. No.
Really?
No. I was, it was a sort of weird thing. Like, I was the guy that... Again, it's funny that I'm in the industry now, but I was the guy who, like, in primary school, I was the person who would tell funny stories or make people laugh, or I would watch a movie. You know, on Mnet they used to play like a movie every night. They used to play like a movie every night at 8 on Sunday, and then on Monday everyone would come talk about it. So then I would do like little snippets from the movie, and some of our friends would like act it out.
Solid.
So that was me in primary school, but then in high school I kind of changed over.
Okay.
And I don't know why. I think they put me in the... So I was always like... I didn't focus that much on schoolwork, but I was decent at it. Then they put me in the smart class, and I'm a very competitive person. And then I was like, okay, I need to work hard. And then I kind of lost that fun joy in me. And then that kind of went through into the med school thing.
Amazing.
Where then I was just this nerd that was focused, and everyone just knew me as, Bryce is this guy who's focused and hardworking.
But I think it works as a leader, as a director.
So I was the head boy at my school. So everyone thought I was going to be something very different to what I am now.
But it's still incredible.
Yeah.
Because it gives hope to the head boy watching.
Who wants to make movies or make music or
that wants to go to the arts. What's your favorite genre? Do you know yet? Do you have a specific style?
I do and I don't. So I have favorite genres to watch. I like to watch like a lot of stuff, so almost everything. But what happens is I also want to work in everything. Like I want to try and touch on everything.
So you have a specific genre that you work in?
So I do and I don't, because whenever I end up writing something, even if I set out like this is going to be a drama, it kind of ends up going in one of two ways. It's either going to become like a horror or a thriller, or it's going to become a comedy. And it's interesting because comedies and horrors are kind of the same thing. They play on the same beats. So I always end up making those. Like I've never been able to make a drama, just a straight drama, because I'm always like, something eerie needs to happen here. The tone needs to shift. Or it just becomes too comedic. So I suppose those are the two genres that I work in.
Amazing.
One day I want to do something sci-fi, but now I know that that's very expensive, so I try to rein myself in. Also, I'm dating a production designer, so if I show her a sci-fi script, she's gonna say, how's that possible?
Yes, she's gonna be honest with you.
This is impossible, yeah.
Let's speak through the process of being, because you're a screenwriter as well, and then directing. If you get an idea, how long does it take? Like, take us through the steps of being a director, because screenwriter and director, you have to do both.
So normally, it's very interesting because I go through periods where I have nothing. And that back in the day, I used to think, oh, this is bad.
Yeah.
Like I can't just have nothing. But then this is a lot from reading and listening to other directors and other writers. Those periods are actually the best period. That period where you don't have any ideas, because that's when you fill yourself up with other things. So that's when you watch movies. I try not to watch too much movies when I need to fill myself up, because you end up copying. But what I like to do is to read books, because then you kind of seeing the picture in your head and you're reading these novels.
Sure.
And then I'm very careful with what I fill myself up with as well, like to try and shape something. And then one day you'll be sitting somewhere or walking down the street or something, and you just come up with this thing.
Wow.
This thing will pop in your head. It's always like a what-if scenario. So I always think, like Stephen King says, that there's the guys down in the basement of your mind, and they're moving things around, and you don't understand what they're moving until they've built this thing, and you walk down and you see, oh, here's the next movie, or here's the next script.
Mad.
And then what happens is I go into, and I suppose I need to work on this a little bit, but then I go into this sort of fugue state of, oh, okay, I have this idea, I need to write it down now, I need to plan it out immediately, so that I have it, so I don't lose it, because I get like very manic and passionate. So then I'll plan the whole thing out. So sometimes if that's too tiring, then I'll revisit it again the next day. But often I'll plan it out, and then I'll be like, okay, let me just write it. I know who these characters are. Then I'll just write like a hectic draft immediately, and I try to, and this is bad as well, but I just sit until it's done. Like I feel like I have to get it out of me immediately. No, the bad thing is what comes after, because then you feel so drained. You've used all of yourself out, that then when you come home and you have to speak to people, you don't really want to, because you're done. Like I've put everything on the page. But then what I do is, that's your first draft. Then what I do is, like a few days later, I'll read it again and see if it's actually something worth making, because sometimes it's just crap.
The next
like
day,
if you read it a few days later, either it works or it doesn't. But if it works, then I send it to like the people I trust. So I wrote something recently, and I sent it to you quite early on in the process. I sent it to my girlfriend as well. I sent it to my brother, who's always in my corner.
Yes, shout out.
So depending on the thing, I'll send it to certain people as well, like other people in my life as well, from film school, to just read, hear their notes. Then with their notes, I either take or leave their notes, and then I do a second draft where I'm just tightening everything up. Then I do a third draft where I tighten it up a little bit more, and then we start thinking about, okay, how are we going to make this?
Then you start gathering
Then we start gathering a team of who will work for this. I mean, at this stage, it's more just who will work.
Who wants to get on board?
Who wants to do this thing? 100%. But then I start sitting down. Often, what's kind of a cheat if you're a screenwriter director is, while you're writing, you're seeing the pictures in your head already. So then I sit down and I try to look at it just as a director. And then what happens is you get another draft where you change the script, because first you wrote it as a screenwriter, now you're changing it because you're like, oh, that's not feasible from a technical. Because the screenwriter.
I was going to ask you, how do you even do that? But you understand the world.
See. Yeah, the screenwriter's the dreamer. So this is if in the ideal world, this is how the movie would go. Then the director comes and they're the realist. Then it's practical and it's mechanic.
Got you.
Then you're like, oh, we can't do that, so we must change this in the story a little bit so that can work. And then you tweak it. And then I kind of do my shot list just on the page. I just scribble and I see every single shot, how it's going to work. And obviously keeping your theme in mind and what the point is of this. And you jot everything down. Then I meet with the whole team and I walk them through. You've been in those meetings.
That's fun.
I stand up a lot. I walk them through every single shot and the reason for that shot, so that they can say, oh, why don't we do it like this?
Yes.
And then if I don't have a reason why we shouldn't do it like that, then let's do it like that. And then that becomes collaborative. Then once you've gotten the crew on board, they can all go off and we have separate meetings of planning, because you want cohesiveness in your film. And then
so
we
you're
go
involved
off
in each
plan.
department.
Yeah, every department I have to be involved in.
Yeah, and once it's shot, obviously you're part of the editing as well.
Yes, then it's a different. Then that's a different. So pre-production is very fun because you're dreaming.
Yes.
On set is very hectic because you're building. So it's very labor intensive, very stressful. Then post is weird because it's kind of like it depends on how you do post. But ideally, you'd want it to be like a 9 to 5 where you come in at 9. This is how we did it after. You would come in at 9. Sit there and the whole day just edit this movie. Now it's a little bit different because people will edit remotely and send you the things and you watch it. But then you watch it and you have to give notes because you saw it in a certain way in your head and you know what footage we have. And then again, the editor has license as well to bring their own creative things, but it must
Gotcha.
align with the theme and what you're trying to say.
Sure.
And that's then where you have to watch for that. And then you have to listen to the sound, because sound is 50% of your movie. And you have to make sure that that works as well. Nothing's too distracting and everything's enhancing the beats that you've already gotten. And then you have to work with color as well, with grading, which is... Because there's so many different ways you can color a movie, and that
100%.
tells a story as well.
100%.
And you don't want it to take away from the way that it's shot, but you also want it to enhance the scenes.
So it's a fine line.
Yeah.
What would you say? What would you want people to take away from your work? What's the vision for you?
I don't know. I always want. When I was a kid watching movies, I would love movies, but there was always a sense of disconnect for me from the characters. I always felt like, I mean, that could be me, but not really. I remember watching when I was like little watching superhero movies, and none of them really looked like me. Like I wanted my hair to curl like Superman did, but my hair didn't look like Superman. Obviously. And then I would grow up and I'd watch these brilliant characters who go through things that I've gone through, but there's still a disconnect because they don't look like me. And then as I got even older, I realized there's not stories about, especially about colored people, because we're such a small group, really. There's not stories about colored people, really. I mean, really people of color, but now in South Africa, we're bringing up only now we're bringing up a lot of people of color, but I really want to tell stories that are inherently relatable to colored people, and not in the way it's been portrayed a lot. This is no hate on these movies because they're great movies, but a lot of the times when you watch a movie where you see people that look like you, they're gangsters or they're in prison, and those movies are great, but I watch those and I'm like, oh, I've never been in prison. I'm not a
you want to tell it from your perspective.
Yeah, people would call me a coconut, I believe. So I kind of want to tell the story of like, oh, these middle class colored people who also
they exist.
They have their own issues as well of fitting in. Like I always felt like I didn't fit in with white people because I don't look like them. But when I went to family gatherings, they asked me, "Are you from overseas?" Because I didn't fit in there with them either. So I kind of want to tell stories where a kid like me can watch and be like, oh, that's me. He gets it. Yeah.
That's beautiful.
So that's the overarching goal. So I always go into my stories with that.
And then any highlights, last one for you on your journey so far? I know you finished, and also where you're working. Share that as well with us. Where you're working now, what you do now.
Yeah, I think highlights of... I think one of the highlights is that film Organic that we made. That ended up being screened at the Lobby because that's how we did our film festival. And knowing everything we went through, like we struggled to find a location. We were very last minute with everything in terms of because stuff got cancelled and we kind of had to put it together. And then sitting there in that theater with all these people watching and seeing it and hearing them react to the movie you made, to this thing that I sat in my room writing alone. And thinking, if I'm watching this, I'm gonna think this is great, or this is where the people will gasp. Then sitting in a packed audience, and they all gasping at those moments, or being like, "Oh no," or reacting.
That's powerful.
That was better than anything else because then it means something that
you forgot.
Yeah, you forget all of that, and then because when you get into the work of it, you forget what you started out to achieve, and then sitting there and hearing people react like that and seeing it have an impact. That was beautiful because then I was like, oh, this thing that we made together, that a whole lot of people came together to make, ended up having an impact on people and having people come up to you and asking questions and being like, why did this happen? This is intense. So I love that, and I think that's like a feeling that I want to chase all the time. And that's what I always have in my head now when stuff gets hectic. It does. Is that, it's the audience. You want people to feel seen or to relate to this.
Beautiful. What do you do now? Just the last one before we wrap up.
I work in the production department at Moonlighting Films, so I'm a researcher. So essentially, it's a great job because I get to read a lot of scripts, a lot of international scripts. I learn from that as well of just, this is how a script is set out.
Amazing.
And then I kind of put together location presentations for them, and then I also do script breakdowns for budgeting purposes and schedules for budgeting purposes.
Amazing stuff.
And it's cool. So I do that during the day, and then in the evenings I work on my own stuff, like I write.
And obviously there's going to be some stuff dropping very soon, so you can follow them on social media. Please check him out. And I'm excited for your journey, Bryce, and I'm excited for the work that you're going to do. I know it's going to be beautiful.
Awesome.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Lekker joy, mensen. So hoop het wel. Thank you so much for tuning in. We see you on the next one.